confidence.
This is the installation video for the LongShot Manufacturing aftermarket parts for the Hi-Point 995 TS and other Hi-Point carbine models. So we're going to do the 14.4-inch metal top rail. We'll be getting rid of this plastic top rail. We're going to be doing a barrel shroud. We're going to be doing an M-lock rail that connects to the barrel shroud, which means we will be completely eliminating this plastic rail. We will be eliminating the front sight block, and then LongShot has a bunch of different thread protectors. This is their Viper, which I think was pretty cool, and we'll show that out of the package when we get to that point. I want to keep everything really pristine until we get to it. We're going to be installing the 6-inch under rail here to give you a little bit more real estate for things that you want to mount. We will be doing an oversized magazine release and a much better oversized grippy charging handle. So that'll be cool. Now, they send pretty much everything that you need with this for mounting, screws, all of that stuff. I'm going to set this all aside and we're going to go piece by piece here because a lot of people don't even know how to take these down. It's definitely not like most firearms or most rifles that you have to do. So the first piece that we're going to do, we're going to break it all down, and this way you'll know how to break down a Hi-Point carbine if you don't know already. And in easier ways. I've seen a couple of videos where people are doing things kind of the hard way, so I'm going to show you the easiest way to do everything. And you really shouldn't need more than the actual Hi-Point tool that comes, you know, with the carbine. I don't know if you can see that or not. You know, it's got a couple of wrench spots, these nubs on the end, which we'll get to. These are basically keys. And then a flathead at the front. You'll need a couple Allen wrenches, which LongShot sends with the products that you purchase. And we might need a couple other little things. I don't think so, though. Just with this tool and these Allen wrenches alone, we actually should be good to go. So first thing that you want to do, we're going to get rid of this charging handle here, and you just use the Hi-Point tool for that. I think a lot of people skip this tool when they get these carbines and they don't realize that they're in there or what they're for. I will be happy to get rid of this charging handle because I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Okay, now for breakdown. And if you've never done this before, we're going to go further than you normally would, because in order to get to the magazine release, we actually have to come all the way back here to take a bunch of the screws out to actually separate the stock in half in order to pull the magazine release out. So first things first, you want to release this clip, which it can be kind of a bear, you know, if you've never done it before, or if it's brand new. So you can use this. There's going to be a lot of different ways that you can do it, but basically you just need to slide this forward. You can use the end of this piece, actually either end, and just push. Sometimes that works. What I like to do is I like to take the flat edge of this and put it up against the rear, and then push that forward. And then you'll see a little hole there, and you can just use something. I just use the flathead piece and kind of clip it in there and then pull out. Okay. Now it'll get to the point where there is a plastic nub right there that this actually sits against, and you want to make sure that you're not pushing against that and damaging it. So just kind of look at what you're doing every so often. Okay, so our clip is out, and I always set stuff kind of in the order that I do it. So actually we'll start here, and then we'll line pieces up this way. All right, so our clip is out. Now we need to take these pins out. This is where I saw some confusion from some people online. Basically, these two clips, they rotate this way. And a couple of videos I saw, people were like, yeah, just take something like this and take a hammer and tap it out. Don't do that. Don't ever take a hammer and just tap something out if it's difficult to get out, because you're most likely going to end up damaging something. These two teeth right here on the end, okay, they fit right here and right here in these two holes. Now, the reason that these clips are hard to move sometimes is because there's tension on them. On the other side of the rifle is the other side of the pin. These are spring-loaded pins, so you want to push in on this side. When you push in on that side, watch the other end of the see how it pops up? I don't know how visible that's going to be on camera, but see how that pops up? So that's releasing the tension on the clip. Now with mine right now, I can actually take my finger and move it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to show you the proper way to do it with the key. So the key sits, those two nubs sit in these two holes, and then while you're pushing up from the other side, you just turn it, and that's it. It's unlocked. And then that pin actually will come all the way out. We're not going to take it out yet though. So we'll do the other side. Okay. So you push the pin up from the other side, put the two nubs in the holes, and just turn. Now, flip it over, pull your pins out, set them aside. Now this piece right here, when you pull this up, that's what's holding this front stock portion on. There is a little groove that you can see right there. You can use a flathead. There's a lot of different things you can use. I prefer same tool, just use the same nub ends, and you just stick the nubs in that groove and turn, and that pops up. And that, as you can see, that wiggles a little bit. That unlocks this now. All right. So then what you do is you just pull the stock forward, and that pops out. We will get back to this. This piece has to come out for the new rail, so we'll get to that last, because I think that's probably going to be the most tedious piece besides the magazine release. So I'm going to set this aside. We'll get back to this. And now you've got your bolt out, you've got your pins out, and you've got that pin out. Just lift up, okay, on the top receiver. That comes out. Set that aside. And then your barrel, lift that up, and that whole assembly comes out. And this is the point of breakdown where you can clean it. So you can get in here. Ooh, yeah, I should probably clean that. Since we have this here, let's take the thread protector off, drop it like it's hot, and we'll just take this block off here. Okay, so this block, you will need a 2mm Allen key, and then you can pop these out of here. And that should slide right off. Okay, set this aside because we're going to be done with it. I would keep all of this stuff, you know, maybe throw it back in the box if you still have the box, just in case, because you never know. Now we're going to set this aside and come back to the stock here. So the first thing that we're going to do with the stock is eliminate this rail. You want to do this the correct way so you don't break anything, because apparently some people, when they want to get rid of this, they think they can get to this point and then just pry this out of here. That's not how it works. There are screws that hold it in, and if you start prying, you're going to bust something. So take your appropriately sized Allen screw, Allen wrench, remove these first two screws. Okay, flip it up. We're replacing this anyways, so go ahead and take this rail off, which is a different size. Now, the new rail does come with screws, but I'm going to set those there just in case. So this rail pops right off. Okay. Now, inside here, you can see the silver. There's two little nuts that actually sit inside the plastic housing. So when this comes apart, they might try and fall out. So just keep an eye on those. All right. But before you try and separate it, there's another little Allen screw right here, which I have heard and can confirm that sometimes for some reason it's just stripped out. Mine is not totally stripped out, but I think if I did this a number of times, it would be. So the little tiny Allen screw there. And I'm just going in order, going all the way back because I'm going to end up replacing the magazine catch. So now we've got a little horseshoe clip here. Again, you can use your high point for this. I just take one of the little nubs on the end and hook the back of that horseshoe clip and just push forward. You can also use the smaller end too, that standard flat screwdriver head, and then get it enough to where you can kind of see it sticking out here, and then you can just put that flat head in there and pull it all the way out. Set that aside, small part, don't lose it. Now at this point, we could take this rail out, but I'm just going to go all the way back as far as we have to go first. So now we've got 2 screws here and then 2 screws here, and then we should be ready to replace everything. These are small screws, they're not real long. Okay, so those 2 screws out of the handle, and then we've got 2 more screws back here, 1, 2. We'll remove these. So at this point, the only thing that's holding the 2 pieces together is everything back here, these screws here, okay? But with all of these screws gone, it's going to be enough for us to separate the 2 pieces. This is actually, you can see here these lines, that's the separation of the 2 pieces. See how they kind of come apart? Enough to remove this and then also to get the magazine catch out. So carefully separate the front. It may not always happen that easy. And then take this out. So you can see how this is shaped, how it's kind of locked in there what's as it should be. So if you just try and pry that out, you're going to bust this whole thing. So we can go ahead and set that aside. We're not going to need that back. Make sure our little metal, so you can see one here and one here. Make sure those don't fall out of there. And then what we're looking to get to now, which this is going to be hard to see, is your magazine release. It's a bar right here. And on this side, not the button side, but the other side, there is a spring back in there. So when you take this out, you need to make sure you don't lose that spring. There's no tension on it. It's not going to pop out, but it's still just a small piece, so it could come out pretty easy. So just separate that enough to get this out. Okay, so that's your magazine release right there. Like I said, this little spring likes to come off. Don't lose it. Just remove the plastic one that's on there. So put your spring back on. This is probably the hardest part of this entire thing, is getting this back in there. Okay, so we got it in there. Lay it down on this side so that it doesn't come out. Take out your oversized button. There's 2 grommets in here. You get an extra one. You only need one. So there's a rubber grommet. There's a little channel. Let's see that channel in there? So this rubber grommet goes into that channel. Now, the easiest way to do this is put the grommet on the rod first. Okay. Feed the new button on there. And then once it's inside, take the grommet and roll it on while pushing in on the magazine catch. Roll that grommet into that groove. See, now you can see where that grommet is. And that's it. Your magazine catch is installed. Now the reason I said put the rubber grommet on the rod first and then push this on is because if you put the rubber grommet on here first and then try and push it through the frame, sometimes it will push that rubber grommet up and it won't be in the groove where it's supposed to be. All right, so that's done. And as you can see, while I was doing that, both of those metal nuts fell out. So now all we have to do is screw all this back together. Do not over tighten these screws. Remember, this is plastic and you don't want to damage anything. So just make sure they're tight and it's good. Okay. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out with me today and do this. I know I'm doing it step by step. There's not going to be a lot of editing, so you're just here for the whole shebang. Okay, remember, don't over tighten. Before I put this clip back in, I'm just going to test. I want to make sure that the catch actually recedes all the way, which it does. That looks good. That whole thing looks good. Keep this together. We got our little horseshoe pin that goes back we're here. I'm right-handed, that's why I'm doing this all goofy. That went in really easy. And then this little screw, this is the big one. Don't over tighten because, like I said, this one apparently seems to strip out pretty easily. So I'm just gonna snug it and then that's it. I'm good with it being snug. All right. And then these two screws were for the bottom rail. We're gonna set those aside for a second. Snug that down, don't over tighten. Snug that down, don't over tighten. Re-snug this one, just in case. Yeah, I think that one in mine is a little bit shot. There we go. Okay, so we're at the point now where we can add another part, which is going to be our 6-inch bottom rail, which it does come with new screws. Just use the new screws, keep the old ones for extra parts if you need them. It's always best to use the new ones. Okay. And you can see this only goes in one way. It's going to fit that groove. So, you know, the old one ended basically here. So you're going to get that extra space if you need it to mount whatever you want. That's not the right one. There we go. Extended mag release, new 6-inch metal bottom rail. Let's go ahead and we will work on the new top rail. This one's pretty easy. There's 4 screws in the stock rail, just unscrew them. Pretty straightforward. Now remember this back screw, these 2 back screws hold this plate on. So set that plate aside. Okay. Then that lifts right off. So again, it's just these 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. That comes right off. That's your plastic rail. Don't need that anymore. Here's your new rail. Sits just like that. Great fit. Man, that's already really sturdy on there. Beautiful, beautiful. Always use the new screws, just keep the old ones for spare parts. This is the piece that you have to replace in the front portion. So we'll get to that in a minute because that's going to be a little bit more tedious. Drop a couple screws in here. Line this plate back up. Get that started. Tighten those down because this lip slides in here like this. And you put it back on underneath like that. Okay, and then this plate goes inside here, and that's what these two screws screw into. So hold that, kind of line up the holes, and hold that with one finger. Get these started. Try not to cross thread them. There we go. And then snug everything down. Cool. And then you've got your longer rail. That's going to be good. Now, what we have to do is replace this with this so that this hex screw will actually go to this hole and mount to this when you put it back together. Okay, so what I ended up doing was I've got this little pick set that I use mostly for car audio stuff, but it's just got this little, looks like an ice pick in it, and I just set that against one side of the roll pin. I guess that's hard for you to see. I just set it against one side of the roll pin there and set the roll pin like this on an edge, or set this piece on the edge and held that right there, and just very lightly with a hammer, just tapped it a little tiny bit, and the roll pin started to come out. I didn't even pop it all the way out. I just left it so that I could pull it out here. Maybe. Okay, that's out. This comes off. Then this piece, little piece comes off. and then that pushes out. Now what happens, your aftermarket piece, push that in there. Make sure it's in there nice and snug too. Okay, so that's in there, seated. Okay. Let's go ahead and assemble this back up. Okay. Okay, so now that we have this piece on here, this part's going to be a little bit different because this is going to have to be up like this a little bit with the pins out before you can take this in and out with the longer rail. So have this just kind of lined up but not pinned, still sitting up a little bit, and then that way you can place your top piece down in here and then set everything down together, and then you can push that piece back. Okay, if you pin this first, then this piece will not be able to slide underneath the rail to attach. Put your pins in. Okay. Lock and lock. And now your new top lock screw you can tighten down. Just snug it down, you don't have to crank it. Okay. I can tell you right now, that already looks 1,000 times better than the stock one did with that full-size rail coming all the way down. They really made that shape on the end of it, how it contours to the stock. That's cool. I like that. Okay. So last for assembly, you've got your main this can be kind of a bear sometimes to get back in. What I like to do is put the butt of the gun up against me and just take the tool and just real lightly just push that in and it clips right in. Let's do our new charging handle. Man, this thing is slick. I like this a lot. Let's see, is that this one here? No? All right. Get that nice and snug in there. Before we do the rest of it, we'll do a quick functions test. Okay, I can reach, this will be hard to get on camera. I can reach the magazine release now from this side, which is really nice. Couldn't do that before. This is functional charging handle, locks open, pull out, way more comfortable than that stock one. This I might see as an issue. I don't know about that, but we'll have to wait for shooting to see how that works. If that was snug, it would be better, but just because of the design and it has to move back and forth in order to lock in, I kind of see how that's something that may not be avoidable. Okay. Okay. Let's get to the front. So we've got 3 pieces. Got this barrel shroud. I like it. I like this barrel shroud actually a lot. So I've got M-lock on there. I'm going to put this on first, and then we'll put the M-lock rail on. Make sure this all lines up here. Before I tighten that down completely, I just want to make sure that that lines up straight. How's that look? That looks pretty good, I think. Okay. So we'll tighten those down, not too much, because this is just aluminum. You don't want to strip that out. And with the thread protector on there, that's actually going to hold it on there even better. So this is the Viper thread protector. Pretty cool. All right, so screw that on there. Get that on there nice and tight. Look at that. That just looks cool. That looks so much better than stock. All right, we're almost there. The only thing left to do is install our M-lock rail on the bottom side of the barrel shroud. The only thing really that I would put on here probably is like a flashlight. Definitely not a laser, just because this might have a tendency to move a little bit. There we go. All right. Okay. Tighten that down, not too much. Nice and sturdy. We are done. So we added the Viper thread protector, we added the barrel shroud, we added the underbarrel metal rail, the understock 6-inch metal rail, the 14.4-inch metal rail for the top, and man, that just looks frickin' slick. And then of course we also added the oversized magazine release and the new charging handle, which is very nice. And this is all LongShot Manufacturing parts, and you guys really need to go check out LongShot Manufacturing. They're trying to get bigger and better and do more products, and I'll tell you what,